Dental Fuel, the podcast that focuses on what no one else is talking about: mistakes. The dental world is full of before and afters, and no one is talking about the middle. Dental Fuel brings you the unspoken in between. Dental Fuel is brought to you by Ignite DDS Coaching, empowering dentists to build self-determined futures. Together, we're shaping the next generation of leaders in dentistry. Doc and Dawn are way better with finances than I am. They share some incredible insights as well as some mistakes that I think we can all learn from. And I think that sometimes many dentists may run into some financial issues with wanting to try to keep everything in-house to, help hopefully make a better profit for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think finances are a big issue with a lot of dentists because there's not a really big understanding. And so I would love to know a financial mistake if you all have made any, but probably not because it sounds like Doc's got it covered. But if you all really haven't had a huge one, I would love to know if you have helped other dentists kind of work through any financial mistakes that you have seen.
Sure. I mean, we could probably start with a personal one first, and then we got so many examples. But what I will say, people are trying harder. I will say, people are really trying to get the information necessary to succeed financially. For ourselves personally, we've been doing Airbnbs since 2016, 15? 16. Our first Airbnb was up in Philadelphia, actually. So from there, we were, again, acquiring Airbnbs and building them out that way. We didn't have our first, I'll probably say, big financial loss from an Airbnb until 2022, I want to say. Yeah. I just remember being in clinic and then getting a message of guests standing in water. And one thing that was big for us was like any city that we spend significant time in as travel dentists staying in, our goal is to buy a house there or a property there. So now if we're in town, we can work there. If not, let's say if another travel dentist is coming to town, they need somewhere to stay for a week or two while they figure themselves out. We wanted to be able to provide housing free of charge to anybody who actually needed it, who was on that track for maybe a week or two to help bridge you where you want to get to. These were Airbnb guests. They weren't doctors. And they were, I'm not exactly sure what happened. They didn't really go into much detail on what happened. All we know is that there was water everywhere, standing in water, and no one wants to. So our days are from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Longer, actually.
At 6:20. She's gonna say that part, right? We get to the office around 6:20, and I want to say around 6:30 when I got the picture set. Right, we're standing in water. Come figure this thing out. I'm like, I'm in a whole different city, 2.5 hours away. We're not coming.
Yeah.
And it really just highlights the importance of, to be able to mitigate your financial risks, it's important for you to have a team in place. So first thing we did was call a property manager and then call our business associate that we do all of our real estate with, right? Gave them a call, let them know, okay, this is what's going on. He said, don't worry about it. I'll handle it. It's hard for you not to worry about something that you have so much money tied into, especially when you're going through the middle of the day. But what I will say, a bad situation could have been a lot worse.
For sure.
If we did not have those safeguards in place. So it was a lot. And I remember when they first gave us the quote for how much it would cost to fix everything for the water. I remember he said 40,000, and I thought he said 4,000. He said no 40. And I said, did he say 40,000?
Oh my gosh.
No, that's the first time in my life. I had to ask somebody 3 times to make sure I understood what he said. He said, no, I said $40,000. I said, okay. I don't understand what you're saying right now. So you call your insurance company, they say the most they're going to pay out is 5. And then now you got to really start getting creative, right? And try to figure this thing out. But again, understanding those safeguards in place, we worked directly with Airbnb on that particular property. So they had their own form of insurance. So when it all came out, it ended up being a wash. It was just really downtime that was lost on the property. But thank God it was a duplex. So we still had one unit still going while the other one was still being figured out. But the biggest thing is, regardless if it's a property or if it's stocks or if it's your practice, the best thing you can do to help mitigate downside when it comes to anything financial is to make sure you have a good team in place and you have safeguards in place. Because if not, bad can go to worse really, really, really quickly. And the question isn't if it's going to happen. The question is when it's going to happen. So when it does happen, how low is your low going to be, right? Is it going to be a deep valley, or is this going to be a small blimp that that a few $1,000s can fix this problem, or is it going to be one of the ones that's going to ruin your entire year?
That's a really good one. Yeah.
What an experience.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I do love that you all are treating that as an investment, and providing a space for perhaps traveling dentists to arrive and maybe find a home when they're traveling. I think that's really awesome. Almost a business idea, to have that across the board, especially where there are big CE courses and maybe host dentists when they go. Maybe just a little business model there. So that's really awesome. Yeah. I have ideas, but I'm not the finance person, like I mentioned. But I'll kick that over to you all. And
it's all about the business
that's right.
partners.
That's right.
Whatever you don't do, somebody else enjoys doing. So
that's right.
Maybe you have the income, maybe you have the credit in place, maybe you have the ability. All doctors have access to a doctor's loan, whatever it is like that. Now you just have to find somebody trustworthy that you've done things with in the past. Believe it or not, the best business partners are the ones that are already around you, not necessarily the ones with all the titles behind their names. But maybe somebody who's interested and has a passion for finances that would love to do a small project with you. You start one project, maybe one project turns into two projects, and the next thing you know, you look back 5 years later, y'all have done a lot together.
Ultimately, someone with the time, though. I'm sure your schedule is pretty busy.
Yeah, I'm sure that you guys can relate. Just being in the dental field, I mean, you also already shared that your hours are so long. It's so hard to find that extra time to do fun activities like that. But it's a great way to, save up for retirement, which I think is so important, especially for dentists who are practicing and others in our profession.
Right, exactly. And then even with Dr. Ifedi, how he mentioned just different opportunities for dentists to be able to invest outside of the dental practice. Even for an example, inside of the dental practice, if we have like any owners or doctors that just want to become well versed and knowledgeable about how things operate in the dental practice as far as like financial mistake. One thing that we learned pretty early on was just like knowing insurances in and out, like having a full understanding of insurances, what that looks like, the language of insurances, because if an insurance says they pay 100% of a certain procedure, is that 100% of your office fee or 100% of their allowable amount? So that was one thing that we had to really dive into. We made a few mistakes into like getting those first EOBs back, those explanation of benefits, and understanding how much insurances were actually like paying for certain procedures, to have an understanding of what it was that we needed to ask them. So that was the biggest thing, of knowing what questions to ask, when to ask them, how to ask them, and really to decipher that information.
She's a collection queen.
Oh, I love that.
I thought I was good, but I remember bringing her like 5 figures in accounts receivable, and next thing you know, I see checks in the mailbox. I'm like, how did you get these things paid out? I don't know how she does it.
You have to be aggressive.
Team, they get it done. We have sharks on our team, and I love it.
You have to be aggressive, but you have to know what you're looking for, know what insurance is saying. Sometimes it's just pausing and reading. I think we had a case where it was a simple switch of a code. It was an implant case, and we just had 2 implant codes paired together incorrectly. So it's certain things like that that makes a difference between the patient having to, like, given that as the patient is their responsibility, or the insurance, as they should rightfully so pay for that for the patient, because it's in their benefit. So knowing what it is that you're sending as far as claims, having the proper coding and billing, having the proper AR team, having the proper team even that is gathering that initial information, knowing your frequencies, things like that. So very, very early on, we made a lot of mistakes figuring out insurances, because insurance from the consumer standpoint, but not necessarily from the provider standpoint.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode with Doc and Dawn Ifedi. Next week, we're back talking about team mistakes. Ready to take the next step in your journey? Book an intro call with Ignite DDS Coaching today and level up your future in dentistry.